Unafraid Show, Reister or Wrong. It's your boy, George Reister, in the building. Thank you guys for joining me so much. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. As usual, I appreciate your time, appreciate your energy, and always visit unafraidshow.com. Great articles up. Today we have a special guest, Woody Wommack from Rivals, at Rivals Woody on Twitter. He's a recruiting analyst for Rivals and Yahoo Sports. I know so many of you guys care about college football, care about what's happening with your teams. So we got Woody in. Thanks for joining me today, Woody.
Glad to be here, George. It's crazy. You know, you may not remember this, but I interviewed you once, probably 15 years ago, when you played for Jacksonville, and I was working in Florida. So you probably remember.
Dude, it is crazy because Jamil Hill, who obviously is a big name now, she was a beat reporter for the Orlando Sentinel back when I was playing in Jacksonville.
Well, actually, Jamel and I used to play on the roof of the Sentinel. We had a roof ball basketball league up there, and we would hoop once a week. So yeah, that was when she was on our level. What happened?
Oh my God! I mean, she has just gone to the stratosphere. So we're gonna talk to Rudy about a bunch of things, guys. We're gonna talk to him about the early signing period, college football, who's gonna win the national championship, because everybody knows that if you get a top 6 class a few times in a row, that supposedly that you are national championship bound. But first, we are going to start with dropping a dime. So 10 questions for you, Woody. Rapid fire, total honesty and transparency, and whatever the answer it is, that's what it is.
All right. All right.
First, what one piece of advice would you give yourself at 18?
Oh man, get into school as soon as possible and get that degree. I kind of, waffled around. I was trying to pay my own way, so I went to 3 different colleges. So it took me a little time, but if I was smart, I would have gotten at it right away instead of transferring several times like I did.
See, you were just like one of these high school kids that you were a free agent. You were just looking for the best fit, who was going to give you the best deal.
That's right. Yeah, I needed a better handler. That was the problem.
Yeah, so you do recruiting for a living. You do all these kids. What is the worst take that you've ever had on a kid?
Well, it currently is haunting me every day on Rondell Moore, who is, I believe, a unanimous All-American, if I'm right. And I thought he was too small. I saw him. I mean, I went and watched him in a game, and I saw him. He was getting run down by some dudes who were, not even college football level players. We saw him at the Army Bowl. Other people had him ranked high. That's what makes it worse. It's fine if you miss and everybody missed, but it's bad when I had him as a 3-star, and I was the only one who did that. So Rondell Moore's, he's haunting my nightmares on a weekly basis, which I told him because he was mad about his ranking. And I said, go to college, make me look stupid, and get paid. And he's well on his way to doing all those things.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to talk about the college football and the stars, because I know the kids are in your DMs. Coaches are in your DMs. So we got to talk about that. Number 3, though, in dropping a dime. Where do you want to be in 10 years?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I work here at Yahoo Sports. I love working at this company. My hope is that we continue to grow. Now, do I still want to be doing recruiting? I don't know. I'd probably like to be more of a traditional college football analyst or something like that, or even, somebody like a Bruce Feldman or someone who is on that level. Right. I mean, I know every single kid in all of college football pretty much. So, hopefully I can make that leap. But if not, I like what I do now. I love working with kids, and even though sometimes they can be a pain, it is a pretty fun job.
Yeah, I imagine it is hard because there's a sense of entitlement probably with some of these kids, and then they, that's why some of them. I think why some of them don't pan out is because they're not used to people saying no. They're not used to having to put in that hard work like a lot of other people do.
Right. Honestly, it gets worse every year. It's not getting better. You have kids and you see team stuff. I mean, I tell people, imagine the biggest jock who thought he was the coolest guy in your school. That's every single kid I deal with at every single school. So, sometimes they're going to have an attitude, but that's where that's where I get off with a lot of them, because I throw it back at them and tease them a little bit and stuff like that, and that they usually respect that. And the ones who don't are the ones I get worried about. They can't take a little joke here and there.
Very true. Number 4 on dropping a dime. Who is your favorite hero of all time?
Oh, it has to be Arvydas Sabonis. From Portland Trail Blazers.
He's not my Vitas. He's not your Vitas. He's our Vitas.
That's right. I grew up loving him. I modeled my game after him. I was the only kid in middle school shooting a baby hook shot. So I love him. I was so mad the Blazers didn't get his son when he came out. He's turned into a pretty good pro.
Yeah.
So he's probably my number one guy in terms of just someone that I look up to in terms of all the stuff he went through on and off the court.
Who's your favorite villain of all time?
Oh boy, I really like I love all the sports villains. I love T.O. I really enjoyed Baker Mayfield last year.
Yeah.
I like anybody who kind of rustles people's jimmies like that. That's kind of what I like to do too in my world. So I guess it would be T.O. probably. Just some reason.
It's weird to me that he's actually perceived as a villain, dude. He's actually a good guy. I see him all the time. I like him. Number 6 on dropping a dime. If you woke up tomorrow and found out that you lost it all, and by lost it all, I mean nobody will answer your phone call, nobody will give you a tip on who is your wife and kids are gone, who is to blame, and what's the first thing you do to get it back?
Well, number one, I'm to blame. I'm sure I did something stupid, because that's the thing. Like, I've done my fair share of dumb tweets and stuff like that where I get in trouble. How do I get it back? I'm a grinder. I grew up in Oregon in the middle of nowhere. My dad didn't even finish the 9th grade. I was the first member of my family to graduate from college. So it'd be hard to get it back, but it'd be on me. I messed it up. I'd have to get it back.
All right. What are you afraid of?
Boy, that's a great question. Losing it all would be something to be afraid of for sure.
Hell yeah.
I really don't. I don't like roller coasters either, though. I'm not I got a slow. My resting heart rate is in the 40s, so I can't handle going on a roller coaster. I get too excited too fast and pass out.
Oh man, you got kids. You got to get on the occasional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Number 8 on dropping a dime with Woody Wommack. College he works with the high school kids, but he's a recruiting analyst for Rivals and Yahoo. What will finally break the internet, Woody?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I thought the internet was going to break if they put Georgia in the playoffs.
My Twitter would have broken.
Listen, I'm supposed to be an SEC homer. I cover mostly the SEC, but if you don't win the games, what's the point?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all in on the 8-team playoff. I'm all in on the 5 Power 5 schools getting their conference champion in, no matter even if it's like Northwestern who beats Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. I don't care. You got to win the games that matter. And then 2 at-large bids, and then the highest ranked non-Power 5 school, which would have been UCF this year. It's genius.
Right, exactly. Let's do 8. Let's get UCF. I went to UCF. I don't know if you know that, George. So
no.
Yeah, I went to. That was where I finished my degree, at least.
So you claiming a national championship now?
Yeah. Listen, here's what, and this is what people out on the West Coast should appreciate. The whole national championship game was just the AD just trolling the SEC. That's why I don't know why people are so mad. It was a joke. The whole thing was a joke, and it turned into being a multi-million-dollar ad campaign, and it worked. Guess what? It's working.
I love it. Number 9. If you couldn't be you, who would you be?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I don't know. I'd probably be, one of my I got some family, some in-laws and whatnot in Greece, and I would probably be one of them because the lifestyle they live over there. They just chill, man. It's like they take a month off every August. Everyone's chilling.
Dude, I always wonder, what do people in Europe do for work? Because they chill out till about 2:00 in the afternoon. Restaurants don't open for dinner till about 7:30. I'm like, what?
Right. They take naps every day. We got a nap period in the afternoon. When I go there, here's what's funny. When I go there to visit with my family, we stay there for 2 weeks, and then they say, well, where are you going on vacation? And I'm like, this is the vacation. We only get like 2 weeks a year. Like,
Yeah.
I came to see you. This is my vacation.
Exactly, man. So I was combing through your Twitter, so I actually had to amend the last question on dropping a dime because it's usually what guilty pleasure TV show do you watch that you should be embarrassed about? But I was combing through your Twitter, and you should be embarrassed about watching Pitch Perfect 100 times.
Hey, Pitch Perfect is a good movie. I'll ride for the first one every single time. Listen, when I work in football, so when I come home, I mean, I watch a lot of football games, but I'm going to watch, Riverdale. I'm going to watch Gossip Girl.
Oh, God. Oh,
I haven't watched.
Are
Have you watched Spencer's show yet or not? I haven't watched it.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so that's on my list. I've been trying to watch it so I could have him come on my podcast.
I just finished Dr. Foster the other day on Netflix. Yeah, dude. I listen. I'm a Pitch Perfect fan. Especially of the first one. I think it's awesome. But the third one was kind of garbage. I gotta be.
Well, and the second one's a little problematic. I mean, that Colombian character is a semi-racist. I don't know how they didn't get called out on that.
Exactly. But you guys are listening and watching the Unafraid Show with Woody Wommack. He works at Rivals and Yahoo. He's a recruiting analyst. And very soon you are going to see the fate of your college football team be decided on National Signing Day. The early signing period starts. What is it? December 19th?
Yeah, December 19th. I'm flying to New York on Sunday. We're doing a big show up there, a bunch of videos and stuff. They're letting me host. I don't know what happened. They couldn't find a real host. So I'm hosting. So you'll see me all over Yahoo talking about everything. But yeah, Wednesday's the day, the 19th it starts, goes to the 21st. So kids can sign anytime during that period. We saw last year about 70-80% of the kids in the country took advantage of it and signed early. I would not advise many kids to sign early, but that hasn't been the trend. The coaches have been kind of strong.
How do you think that's impacted recruiting with the early signing period? And I mean, because it's clearly changed when coaches get fired and if they do or do not get fired. But how do you think it's impacted the whole recruiting process in general?
Yeah, it's really sped things up. I mean, we were on a conference call today. I mean, we don't have that many kids that are unsigned. I mean, you remember back in the day when Terrell Pryor had everybody waiting past signing day. The number one player in the country doesn't do that anymore. Our number one player has been committed for 6 or 7 months. People will say, that we always used to get accused of, you put someone uncommitted number one to create the drama. It's like, well, we got to put the best dude number one. Yeah. So there's less drama this year than any year I can remember. And I think it's because a lot of these kids visited earlier and committed earlier.
Yeah. And you guys have Nolan Smith as the number one, right?
No, we have him. He's not. No, we have Derek Stingley number one.
Okay, he's the cornerback from Louisiana, right?
Yeah, his dad was his grandfather was the famous Stingley who played in the NFL, got paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his grandfather. But let me tell you something. This kid, 6'1" corner, runs a 4.4, has the stats, has the film, has the camp performances. He, in my opinion, he's the perfect prospect. He's going to LSU, and we know their tradition with DBs. We like Nolan a lot, but I still think he's a little bit of a tweener. I think he's going to play outside linebacker at the next level. So that's kind of what gave Stingley the edge for us. And far, he's been.
Hold on. There is a kid that Alabama cares about him that we didn't mention yet. Oregon cares about him, and we're supposed to find out on Saturday where he's going. Some people have number one, some people have number two, some people have number three. Kayvon Thibodeau. And I see him regularly because he works out at the same gym as my kid. So, okay. And the kid is big, he's fast. Like, why? Where do you think he's going to end up?
Well, you asked me the other day, we were talking in my DMs. I did a little research, and people seem to think he's going to Oregon. I think his mom loves Mario Cristobal, from what I'm told. So
I'm praying, dude. I'm praying because we have not seen a defensive lineman like that since, like in terms of recruiting, since Eric Armstead. Like I know that DeForest Buckner turned out to be an awesome defensive lineman, first round draft pick. But it's different when you get those 5-star athletes because they look different and they change your entire team.
Right, and you played high level college football. You played in the NFL, and you see him in person and see what he looks like. I mean, there just aren't a lot of guys like that walking around. Now down here, there's more of them than there is out in California. But yeah, especially for the Pac-12 schools, you can't let him get out of there.
No, he looks like Myles Garrett almost, like a younger version of Myles Garrett with his shirt off, where you're like, this dude was created in a lab, like he couldn't have been born in a manger.
Right. I remember that I was not super familiar with Myles Garrett because he didn't do a lot of camps and stuff like that. I think he also played basketball, and he came to the Under Armour game that year, and it was my first time seeing him. And I mean, I stumped for him all the way to the end to be number one. He ended up finishing number 2. We ended up being wrong on that one. Deshaun Hand was number 1. I actually think he's having a really good rookie season for the Lions.
Yeah.
But Garrett was just, like you said, an out-and-out freak, and there's just not many guys like that walking around.
Yeah, so I want to talk about these stars, though, these recruiting stars, because there are so many times, and I see some of these kids, so I hear some of the whispers and all of that. So everybody wants to be the number 1 player in the nation. Everybody wants to be number 1 in the state at their position, all of that. But, like, how do these kids actually get stars? Like, how do you become a 5-star prospect versus a 3-star prospect or a 2-star prospect?
Well, I mean, we start following them now, almost from the time they go into high school. So we don't rank them until after we've moved it up. I mean, it used to be we didn't rank them until after their junior year. Really, now it's after their sophomore year. So like the class of 2021 just played their sophomore season. We'll start to rank them soon. And we follow them in camps. We see them in games. We go to 7-on-7. We go to all-star events and stuff like that. And it's just like building a resume. It's almost like, I actually compare it a lot to that college football playoff process where there's almost different criteria because it's subjective. It's what, at Rivals, it's really eight guys who we get together and we essentially have like a big board where we rank the players by position and then we draft them almost into a numerical order. So you have 1 through 250. So, we always say like, people are like, oh, he's only a 3-star. It's like, well, guess what? A 3-star is projected to be someone who goes to college and contributes, it's at a Power 5 school. And it's not meant to be like, the kicker or something like that. So a 5-star in our mind is a guy we think will go on to be a first-round pick in the NFL. That means he's going to have a good college career and he has the upside to go beyond. So that's why somebody like, I guess Kyler Murray's a perfect example. We didn't rank him as a 5-star. You could argue he should have been a 5-star. Now he won the Heisman, and obviously he's a terrific athlete. But when we were looking at him in high school, we were thinking, okay, is this a guy that can be a first-round draft pick? And at that time, we thought no. We thought he could be a really good college player, and he finished, I think, in the 50s or so. So that's the difference between 30 to 50 and 1 to 30 is, do we think the guy can be a first-round pick? And so we really debated a lot, especially undersized guys like Rondale Moore, who I said, he finished as a high 3-star. He should have been a no-brainer 4-star in retrospect. And by the end, I mean, he might be a first-round pick with the way the NFL's going with some of these guys like Tyreek Hill and stuff like that.
So would you say that the difference between a player who's ranked like 50 to 250, that margin has that the margin in between them has gotten smaller and smaller throughout the years?
Yeah, it has. And the reason why, like when you were coming up, what year were you in high school? Like 99?
I came out in 99.
So, I mean, you remember there wasn't dudes like me really around.
Yeah.
There wasn't camps. You weren't going to, the Rivals camp or.
No, I went to a Nike camp at Stanford. So after I transferred from Buckley, I transferred to Sylmar. I had a good freshman year. I'm sorry, a good junior year. And then I got invited to a camp up there. And I went to the camp, and I think I was the MVP of the camp. And like nobody knew who I was because I had never played football. Nobody knew who I was. I was a basketball player. And then all of a sudden, the next week, I got a letter from, oh my gosh, the coach who used to be Rick Neuheisel,
Oh,
when he was at Colorado, offering me a scholarship. The next week, so I went from nobody knowing who I was. I got invited to the camp. I went to the camp. My dad took me. I showed out, and then all of a sudden, I was on everybody's board
right.
apparently.
But I mean, that was that, like you said, heading into your senior year. Now, I mean, we would have already seen you. You would have been known, and like your huddles up. You got a Twitter. You're tweeting coaches, talking to
Yeah,
coaches. It's totally different. So I would say our rankings are far more accurate than they were a long time ago. And people will point to, oh, but what about J.J. Watt? It's like, well, you can't point to a guy who was a walk-on. That means every
yeah,
single college coach in America missed. It wasn't because of his ranking. Everyone missed.
yeah,
The guys you can get mad at us about are the actual two stars who, sign late with somebody or something like that slide under the radar, or the guys that we saw a bunch and ranked high and then they go and are terrible. Those are the ones
yeah.
you can really give us. And we have our share of misses for sure.
So I have a question. Being that everybody wants the stars and all of that, how out of the 7 days a week, how many times do you receive a text message or a DM from a kid like, why am I ranked here and I need to be ranked higher?
All the time. I mean, they really hound us. Now, I try to basically tell kids like, look, all you got to keep working on getting better, and that stuff takes care of itself. I mean, there are kids who bug me when they're sophomores, and I tell them, they're like, "Oh, sir, can you do an interview?" And I'm going to say, I tell them, "Look, you're going to be so sick of doing interviews,
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, you are going to get so tired of it." Every single kid I tell that to eventually will text me and be like, "Man, you were right. I
yeah,
never want to talk to one of you guys again." And it's just because it starts slow. Once you get your first offer, for a lot of kids, that's the start of everything. And people they're really eager about it. But I try to preach patience, and I tell that to parents too. Now, obviously, uh, having stars and stuff helps, and we do rank a lot of guys that don't have any offers, especially if it's someone we've seen. But a lot of times we'll see somebody with no offers, and a coach will hit us up and ask, "Hey, have you seen anybody you like?" And you tell them about the kid, and next thing you know, he's getting offers. So it's kind of synonymous, the scholarship offers with the rankings. And that's what makes me mad about college coaches going out and saying they don't pay attention to rankings, because they all hit us up trying to get their commits ranked higher. So it's like, I've told coaches, let me see you up there on signing day saying that, and I'll start tweeting out receipts if
yeah.
if you want.
Hey, that's the big. People don't think that coaches want their recruits ranked higher because they pretend like they don't. But in reality, they hit you up too and are like, "Hey, yo, Woody, how about this 4-star guy turn into a 5-star guy? Because then
Right.
then my recruiting ranking gets pushed up, and now people actually believe I need this new
Right.
contract, Woody."
Right, exactly. And some coaches really push the issue, and sometimes it's the assist. They have the assistants do the dirty work, as you know. So it's like, I mean, we got an email from a school the other day. It was a Group of 5 school, and it was huddle film. It was everything in their commitment list, being like, "Hey, can you look at these guys? We think these guys should be ranked higher." Now, I don't even know if that's allowed. Like, I don't even know if that's legal. But and then he emailed back like, just following up to check on these guys. So it's like some people really take it seriously. So it just makes me mad about coaches who say they don't care. Now, do I think coaches say, "Hey, what do you think is a 5-star? That's who we should recruit"? No, I don't think they do that. But they want to have. It's like coaches are competitive, and if we're ranking the classes, they want to have as high of a class as possible.
Oh, for sure, because that makes them look good, makes everybody feel good. But there is a translation, though. I mean, like people have done studies. They've looked that it's something like that. If you have two classes ranked in the top six, I'm sorry, you have classes ranked in the top six. You're gonna be in the college football playoff or the national championship within like 4 or 5 years or something. It's crazy. Like so from your rankings and all of that, who do you think is going to be in the national championship? Not 20, well, in 2019 and 2020.
Well, really, I think one school to watch is Texas A&M. It may not be next year, but Jimbo's loading up on players down there, and he's doing a great job recruiting. That's what they hired him to do. I like what he's doing in Texas. I think Oklahoma is not going to slow down anytime soon. I mean, the guys they're getting, they got a 5-star quarterback. They got, I think, 2 5-star receivers committed. these are guys that are reaching to other states and getting. I mean, they're now becoming a national recruiting power. Uh, Obviously, Georgia's right there every year. Alabama's right there every year, and Georgia is an example, and Clemson is too. Clemson's classes from 13 and 14, they were ranked really high, and people are like, oh, they blow it every year, Clemsoning, blah blah blah. Well, cut to now. I
Yeah.
mean, look at it. The foundation of the teams that have been in the playoff every year were built, in Deshaun Watson's class and guys like that, and that was when we were taking heat, especially from South Carolina fans, as how can you rank their class so high? We beat them every year. And now,
it's not even close. It's
right,
not even
exactly.
close. Well, what do you think about some of the West Coast kids and West Coast schools like you have? I think you have Cradell, who decommitted from Oregon, may go to Oklahoma. You got the kid Steele. I think he goes to Mater Dei as well. Like, where do you foresee those kids going?
Steele has been an interesting one. I mean, the amount of people we hear his name floated with. I mean, I think he showed up to our camp in the spring. He had a Oregon bandana on, and then he's going to Oregon. Well, then he commits to USC.
Yeah.
Then he's out at South Carolina taking an official visit. Kids like him, I don't see getting out of LA. So I personally still think there's a chance there for a reconciliation with USC, and I don't know where UCLA is in the mix with him. But I know they're trying to get him out here. South Carolina thinks they have a real shot at him. They have Helinski, the quarterback, committed, and they're thinking we can bring them both out. And T-Rob at South Carolina, their defensive coordinator is one of the best DB coaches in the country. So it's not like it would be, just a random pick. I mean, they're about to put a lot of guys in the NFL, and he did it at Florida as well.
So what do you attribute a team like South Carolina thinking that they can come out to California and get a kid, but then kids from South Carolina don't really travel all the way out to the West Coast?
Yeah, I talked to some guys and some coaches in Texas, and they said they really feel like when they go into California, they have cachet because some of the kids want to get out of there. They want to go. If a kid from Texas or a kid from California gets an offer from the Longhorns, he's interested, and we saw them. They've had success recruiting in California this year. The Gabriel Floyd, who was committed to USC at one point, is committed to Texas. I just think kids on the West Coast, they just grow up differently with a lot of different interests and stuff. Down here, it's sort of like beat into your head, like you're from the South. You're going to stay in the South. You're going to go play for a team. And it's like, if you have the chance to go play at Alabama, Georgia, wherever, you do it. And I mean, it's frustrating for some schools that come in like Oregon or like even Washington, where they try to reach across the country and get guys, and then they end up decommitting at the last minute and kind of leave you high and dry.
Yeah. So it seems like that the schools that the Pac-12 team, that the state that the Pac-12 teams seem to have the most success with, that they have some success in Texas, but it seems like Florida specifically, that some of those kids are like, I'm out of here. I'm heading to the West Coast.
Yeah, and I tell this, like, I mean, there are 2-star kids in Florida that if they moved out to Oregon or Washington would be 4 stars. And that's just how it is. I mean, it's just the fact that there's just so many good players there, and the schools can only take so many. That's UCF is a prime example. Like, there are kids that on their team that at one point had offers from Miami or Florida, Florida State, and they kind of slipped through the cracks. There wasn't enough room for them, or maybe there was a couple red flags here and there. UCF ends up taking a chance on them. They build their whole team with kids from the state, and then when they go play like Pitt, I mean, they just blow by them because they have all those Florida athletes. So that's why teams out west, I always point to guys like, on your team, Ugo Amadi on Oregon is from Nashville, right? And Dylan Mitchell is from Memphis. Those guys, Ugo had a few options. Dylan was wanted by teams here, but guess what? Ugo goes out there and starts every game for 4 years.
Yeah.
Even if he went to Ole Miss, he's probably not playing right away. Yeah. And he's probably going to go to the NFL. And Mitchell's a perfect example too. I mean, look at the numbers he put up this year.
Yeah. So I wanted to go into, before I let you go, Woody. Well, you guys, we're on with Woody Wommack. He covers for Yahoo and for Rivals. He's a recruiting analyst, knows everything, knows all the kids and all the lowdown. So you got to follow him next week. Well, this weekend, next week, leading up, because there's going to be a lot of recruits. There's going to be a lot of hoopla. Woody, specifically about these kids, because there's a kid that's going to my school, Pittman, who had his recruiting release video was just it was too much for me. So what do you think about all these commitment ceremonies, the videos being made, all of this stuff just to announce a commitment?
Well, for a lot of these guys, it is going to be the biggest moment in their career, So I really don't blame them. Now, some of the videos, the video of Peak really hit a couple of years ago when we had the kids skydiving.
Yeah.
We had one dude go to Paris and stuff like that. And Bleacher Report was throwing down, I don't know how much money to make those videos. They kind of got out of that game, and a lot of kids still like to have them, and that some of them are still pretty elaborate. But, guess what? If you're going to celebrate the moment of going to college, it's a big enough deal when anybody gets into college. The fact that you get to choose, I really don't begrudge the kids. Now, I do sort of think it's a bad look, when they start tossing the hats every which way and stuff like that. I don't think you got to do that. But if you want to have fun, you want to have like a celebration with your family, you want to have your mom there, you want to put on the hat, and you want to make a video, go ahead. That's what I say.
Oh,
you never know.
If I had to do it all over again, oh man, I would have thrown a parade. I would have thrown a parade in the city. But I literally signed my letter of I committed the night prior to it. I had gone on a trip to Oregon the weekend before signing day. I went to UCLA, went to USC. I mean, so I had options, but for me, I just signed my letter of intent in my principal's office. We faxed it over, and then I went and scored 30 points against Gilbert Arenas that night.
I'm gonna have to look up the box score on that.
No. Look it up, because I've known Gilbert since I was young, because we played together and against each other, and I just remember how stressful the recruiting process was for me. It was just, it affected my basketball season up until the point that I signed in February, and then after that I started playing super well again. Because you're making a decision that's gonna affect the rest of your life.
Well, and that was before you had people tweeting at you and trying to woo you and people telling you how great you were online, and strangers you don't even know. Then when the kids commit, then they get called names and people tell them they hope they tear their ACL and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on a kid, man. It's like that's what my life is based around, the whims of teenagers. So You never know what's going to happen. They asked us the other day, hey, can you send us a schedule of which kids committing at which time? And I was like, if you think that these kids know a week ahead of time what time they're committing, you got another thing coming. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. So here it is. Here is the bombshell that I want to ask you. So how much? So we've seen through trials and all this stuff how much money is being transferred for college basketball players. How much is a college football player worth?
Well, here's what people don't understand about the comparison to basketball. The reason why this is my opinion, that the basketball companies, about the shoe companies and stuff, and the AU has such a big deal with basketball is because a kid that you're wooing now is going to be drafted in the NBA 9 months later. Think about guys who signed in the class of 2019 in hoops. They go and they play, and the next thing you know, they're getting the draft is in June. Whereas it's a long period with these football players. Even the best of the best are not a surefire thing to pan out because there's so many variables of injuries, and they have to wait 3 years regardless. Now, if Trevor Lawrence was a basketball player or whatever on the AAU circuit, who knows what kind of madness. He would be like the Zion Williamson. Now, schools really wanted him, but he never really got, he didn't have a handler. He wasn't involved in stuff like that. And I think it may be a situation sort of like basketball where other people are profiting off of the kids more so than they are, or their families are directly.
So do you think that it's the 7-on-7 coaches? Do you think it's the high school coaches? Who do you think is getting over on the college football players?
Yeah, I mean, it could be those people. I mean, a lot of 7-on-7 coaches do it the right way and have other like real jobs and other businesses. And a lot of times they're former players like you who,
Yeah.
want to get involved in their old communities, and they end up shouldering the bill of hauling kids around, renting
Yeah.
vans and stuff like that. But there are other guys who, get involved with it for the wrong reasons and have ties to coaches and stuff like that. And it's been my experience that guys like that end up sort of wearing themselves out over the years. We've had a few come and go. I mean, the names that have popped up in investigations and stuff like that,
for sure.
and they come and go. So I do think that there obviously is some things that go on, but it's nowhere near on the scale of basketball, and the amount of money is not the same just because you can't guarantee. First of all, you're signing 25 kids, not 2. And second of all, there's no guarantee that this, one person could be worth, $100,000, $200,000 like you saw in basketball.
Yeah. I'm going to leave you with this, Woody. And then I want you to think while I'm asking you this question, anything that you want to leave the Unafraid Show listeners with. So out of the 2019 class, who is the one kid or one or two kids that you are seeing like, all right, this kid is not a 5-star kid, but this kid is going to be the next deal in your mind? Hot take time right here.
Oh, geez. That's a hard one. There are a lot of kids that I personally think they fit at the right places. We just moved a bunch of kids up that I really like, so it's hard to say like who's left out. George Pickens is a guy that is not necessarily well known. You may not have heard his name. He is a 5-star now. He's a wide receiver from Hoover, Alabama, from the old Two-A-Days High School. You remember back in the day.
Yeah.
Personally, I think he's a can't miss. I think he should be right up there. He's the type of guy. He's like a AJ Green, Julio Jones type guy. Guys who are big and freakish, and also have that edge. I mean, he never shuts it off. Like he's fighting he's catching touchdowns and he's talking trash to kids' mom on the sidelines.
I love it. Where's he going?
He's committed to Auburn, and I think he's sticking with Auburn. So I have some concerns about the offense or whatever. But
oh, for sure.
No matter where he goes, that kid is a monster. A kid I'm partial to here in Atlanta last night. He just won the Class 7A state title, and his name is Jordan Yates. He's a high 3-star. He's 5'11", so people are knocking him because he's a quarterback. But they were 21-point underdogs in the game. They were, according to the rankings here in Georgia, they were 1,000-to-1 shot to win the state title. He led his team to the Class 7A state title in Georgia, which is the highest classification. He accounted for 277 of the team's 300 yards, and they won the game. So he's committed to Georgia Tech now. He was committed to the old coach. The question is, does the new coach think he can be a traditional quarterback? I think he do. I think he was Georgia Tech's best passing quarterback that they recruited under Paul Johnson, and I think he can easily play in the spread. I think he's the kind of guy that you see plays of on Saturday, and you're like, man, that Georgia Tech quarterback, we got to watch him play. So, Jordan Yates, keep him in mind. He can dunk between his legs. He can do it all.
There are two kids though that I'm pointing to that I'm got my eye on, and who I think are who have a chance to be like they both do happen to be 5-star guys though, but that's really all I've really seen. That's who I go watch play. It's Brew McCoy from Modern Day. Kid's a stud.
Yes.
I don't even know what position he's gonna play, but he's like 6'3", 215. He's fast, he's strong. Like the kid is outstanding. And then the other kid is Kyle Ford.
Okay, yes. Receiver, yes.
Yeah.
I will co-sign both of those guys. I love Brew McCoy. I think he probably will end up at USC if I had to guess. But yeah, I'm with you. Let's hear Ford. I love Ford too. So
I think Ford is, even though he's a 5-star kid, I think he's the most underrated kid in the whole class. I think the kid is like, because every coach that I know that I believe, like coaches, like college coaches that I believe that no talent played in the NFL, all this stuff, they believe that Kyle Ford has everything. They're like, this is like that. This kid is going to be something special.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of him. I know he tore up the camp circuit and stuff like that. I do think he is a guy you don't hear as much about. Now, Brew McCoy's been around. He's been a guy on the scene, can do everything, versatile athlete. But Ford is the guy, like you said. I do think he could surprise a lot of people. Where does he end up? What's the scuttlebutt out there? I know Oregon was in the mix for him at one
Yeah,
point.
dude, I don't know. He's just kept such a low profile, which is, not necessarily wide receiver type, but
Yeah.
but
Yes, right.
yeah, and I mean, and he almost feels like, being that he is an understated guy, like he feels kind of Andre Johnson-ish in terms of, when you look up, you're like, wow, this guy's probably a Hall of Famer. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
to where he's not gonna make as much noise as a Chad Johnson, but at the end of the day, you're like, well, yeah, that did happen.
And Andre Johnson went to the U and still didn't become a big pain in the ass like most receivers.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
Woody, thank you for joining us so much today. I appreciate your time. You guys always visit unafraidshow.com. Visit Woody's Twitter at RivalsWoody, and you can catch him next week in New York, hosting the recruiting special. Anything that you want to leave the Unafraid Show listeners with, Woody?
No, just check us out. We got a ton of content. It's not just about, premium recruiting updates. We're doing a lot of big picture stuff. So go to that Rivals homepage, and we got every conference covered. I mean, we got a whole team. Everybody's working hard. So caught up and hit me up with any questions you got on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to interact.
Oh, someone just sent in a question for you before we go off.
Okay.
UCLA. Where will UCLA be in 2 years?
Well, listen, I watched the Pac-12 because I grew up out there. UCLA got much better the second half. I mean, the first half of the season, I was wondering if Chip was just cashing a check, because, I mean, he didn't even look super thrilled to be there. He didn't look happy to be wearing the Under Armour clothes. He just didn't seem like himself. By the end of the year, I was starting to get that feeling like it was old Chip Kelly. In 2 years, I think they're at least winning 8 games. I think it's setting up to be them and USC going head to head. And the question is it him against Heller, or is Kingsbury the head coach at USC?
Kingsbury will be the head coach at USC in after next season, buddy.
Yeah.
But I think that Chip, I said it, I've written it, I've tweeted it. In 2 years, Chip Kelly will have this team in the national championship conversation. Like, I think there'll be a top 12 team.
Yeah, I could totally see that. He's got to get his guys. Now, there was this narrative that they didn't have any talent. They did have some talented players. They just didn't have a full roster. I don't know what they got down to scholarship-wise, but they were hurting.
Yep.
And I think give him – he's known for developing guys. He doesn't go out and recruit off of my list. He doesn't recruit 4 and 5 stars unless he thinks they're really, really good. So he likes to develop guys, like the Jake Fishers of the world. And he's out finding them. So give him 2 years, like I said, and they'll be there.
Oh, I 100% believe it. And people are sleeping because he's actually changed the way he runs his offense. Everybody thought he's going to come in and try to run the same way he did at Oregon. No, sir. He's out there with 3 tight ends and everything. Yeah, Woody, thank you for joining me, man, today. I appreciate it. And everybody will check you out. Thanks a lot. We will catch you later on, Woody.
All right. Thanks, George.
All right. Okay.
All right. That wasn't so bad once we got going, huh?
Yep. Appreciate it. My one thing I wanted to say to you though. Hold on. It says we're still live to a couple places. Before I say this, hold on. Let me make sure that it goes off. Hold on. Let me just turn the encoder off.